Hi guys, welcome back to Tana Central. In this episode, I'm gonna walk you through some of the mini tools, mini apps that I've been building, putting together for extending the features that Tana has in order to help me write in long form, which is one of the biggest things that I've been trying to hack inside of Tana, and I'm getting closer and closer towards a workflow that I'm really happy with. And yeah, with that said, I hope you enjoyed the episode. How's it going, Nick?
Good. I am a bundle of excitement.
Perfect, man. Let's get into it. So I'm gonna share my screen and I'm gonna walk you through what I've been building this week.
Yep, sounds good.
As you can see here, I just have a bunch of text. This one I use Gemini to just help me write an example essay, let's call it, right? Obviously, this is something that I would normally write myself, but just for the sake of doing this demo, I ask it to write something about space, right? Just like outer space and just advancements on that and how humanity has gone to space and so on. By the way, I copy this, but then if I want to paste this into Tana, so if I open my Tana here and I just paste that, you'll see that it's just a bunch of paragraph after paragraph, right? Each paragraph is its own bullet point, right? So one of the things that I've really seen is a common advice that writers recommend is trying to, in order to improve your writing, one way that you can do it is by shortening each sentence, just making each sentence a lot more concise. And that's a pattern that I noticed myself doing, which is like writing unnecessarily long sentences, like I just did right now as I was speaking. Right. So the idea of the workflow that I've been working on is having some sort of system where I can copy things from Tana. So here we just do copy Tana paste, copy Tana paste. It's been copied into my clipboard. And what I have in here is just another mini app that I built for myself, which looks like this. Yeah, I'll walk you through a little bit more. But what's nice about this one is that it's pretty instant. I just paste text in here. You'll notice that everything that has been added on the left has been processed on the right. And it already has the Tana paste format in here. And what's nice is that everything has been split into bullet points, and each bullet point is a sentence. Then I have a copy button with a nice little effect. I paste this back into Tana like that. This is space exploration in bullet sentences. And you can see that every single thing has been split into its own sentence, into its own bullet point, so that I can easily visualize how long each sentence is, and I can start then processing it so that everything is a bit shorter, more concise. So if we just open it side by side, everything's just a big chunk of text, bunch of paragraphs, and then on the right we just have everything divided into nice shorter sentences that are bullet points. So I'll show you some more, but first I just want to hear your thoughts on this. Yeah, what do you think so far? And then I'll walk you through the rest of the process.
I want to make sure I understand. Is it just chopping up the sentences? It's not doing any transformations or summarization or anything. Instead of having each paragraph as a node, each sentence is a node. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. So it just grabs the original text and it doesn't destroy anything. That is why I needed to do it outside of Tana, because by default, Tana, the only way that you can really do this that I could think of is using AI, and AI kind of rewrites things. You know, it's kind of more destructive versus the method that I use is just using Python, which just allows me to easily define like everything that is a sentence is split into its own bullet point.
Yeah, sometimes AI is just too much.
Yeah.
It tries to do too many things. I'm super smart. I can do so many things for you. No, I need you to be dumb. Screw it. I'm just
Right.
going to go into Python.
Exactly, because AI is amazing, right? And the AI in Tana is actually really powerful. There's a second part of this process that I use quite heavily that does rely on AI. I do splitting it into like just my Python build app, and then I bring it back into Tana to use some AI features. But I did realize this part of the process, I've been really stuck trying to figure out how to achieve this, because obviously doing it manually is a pain, right? Just being like, oh, here, enter, right? Doing that manually is super annoying. Just having some sort of tool that can help you process these things and automate it, I think is super powerful. And for this, just creating a mini app for myself was like the best solution that I could find. Again, just using Tana for what is best for, but having these additional tools that I use to help me do things that otherwise in Tana is very hard to do.
Yep. And maybe another comment of something that I'm noticing is we're really leveraging Tana Paste a lot, because Tana Paste is functioning like a poor man's API. Is that correct?
Yeah, for sure. Because Tana Paste is for anyone not familiar, the way that I'm using Tana Paste is just, like I showed before, like it's all about copy as Tana Paste. And then in here, you can see exactly what's going on. If I go all the way up, Tana Paste allows you to have this nice format. You have this symbol that just represents, hey, this is going to be some text from Tana. If something has this at the top, it means that you need to format things in a way that Tana accepts it, which means that if I have any sort of super tags or fields, as long as it has this correctly in place, you can bring it back. Now, technically, because the version that I did is just text, and the real reason why I use Tana Paste still is because it helps me preserve the bullet points and the indentations. That was the biggest reason. But yeah, to be honest, like in this particular example, Tana Paste isn't as leveraged as it could be. but still is a really nice tool that allows us to take things out of Tana, process it in some way, and then bring it back into Tana. I'll show more examples on how Tana Paste has a bigger role, but yeah, Tana Paste is super powerful tool, poor man's API, like you called it. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Okay. Lead me to where you're taking me next now.
Okay, perfect. So this is like the first step, and I'm probably gonna later ask you to help me name things. We'll probably name things later, but for now, this has been like the, I don't know, sentence splitter, something like that. I just creates every bullet point out of every sentence. So now that I have this, we just go back to Tana. We have space exploration. We have the long form version, which is just a bunch of paragraph after paragraph. The reason why this happens is because a lot of the time you might already have something written in some other app, right? You might already have, I don't know, whatever app that you use for having a first draft. It's more likely that you're dividing things in paragraphs. So this was what I believe to be a real life example. But then there's other cases that actually do work quite well, which is the fact that you might have, let's say, a voice note, right? Even if you use the voice note inside of Tana to give you a transcript, that sometimes gives you like big chunks, and sometimes it gives you sentence by sentence. So that's just another way in which, even if you already have things in Tana in bullet points, you can divide things further with this tool, right? You can just make sure that absolutely everything is a sentence, which is going to help us in the next step of the process. So either way, so we have the long text, and now we have a version that is a little bit more, I don't know, to me it's like going down to the most fundamental thing, which is the sentence, right? Now from here, what I really like doing is dividing things by sections. So again, this is just a long form text on exploration of space, and I really want to organize this by categories and just have like different sections. Then I can split it more into headings and so on. But for now, I just would like to see what are some of the main themes, some of the main topics that are being done here. And that can be really helpful if you're doing a voice note and you just want to divide it all. So for this next bit, what I did is, again, if I just copy as Tana paste, what I do here is I created another mini app. Okay, so I created this other one. Again, we're probably going to have to name it so that we know what's what. But then I can just paste the Tana paste in here. And yeah, as you can see, it has the symbol and everything, and it has the indentation, which is what's more important in here, just like knowing which bullet point goes after each bullet point. And then what we do here, this one is actually using AI. So this is using GPT, that when I process, you're going to see this loading bar. Now this one, especially because I have a particularly long text, is going to take maybe like a minute or so. So we're going to pause the video here and then we'll keep going. Yeah, cool. So that was relatively fast. It didn't take as long as I was expecting. So there it is. And now I'm just going to select all of the text in here. And I'm going to go back to Tana and let's just call it version 3. We'll rename it later. And now that I paste this, you're going to see that it's starting to load, right? There's a lot of things loading, and that is Tana. We're going to work through that because it's really cool. Like what has now been done is that everything has its own section, and more importantly, it has a nice heading that goes with it, right? So if we zoom into this and I do the shortcut to expand it all, you'll see that now it's sections, the original text, another section, the original text, and so on, right? And what is so nice about this workflow is that I've really struggled to achieve this within Tana, really struggled to achieve this within any other app, to just have a nice, easy way to organize things by sections without having AI destroying everything. Because for the most part, if you use AI inside of Tana or just even ChatGPT and you say, hey, give me sections for all of this, but don't mess up with anything, it usually messes up everything. So I finally figured out a way in which it only adds sections, but it keeps the original text inside of it. So yeah, give me your thoughts so far, and then I'll walk you through a bit more.
So the only thing that is on my mind right now is I see that section title command. And so I'm wondering tell me what that does.
Yeah, for sure. As you can see, if we go back to this one, you'll notice that here we're actually using a lot more of Tana paste. We have this thing that just says, hey, anything in here is going to be Tana paste. And this particular syntax is specifying that this is a super tag, right? So once the super tag has been created, this one is just an empty bullet point. And you can name this whatever you want. Like I have it set up so that it's called section title. And technically, I don't even need the hyphen in the middle, but either way, I had it there. So this one is just an empty one. So when I put it into Tana, let me just give you an example of what it actually looks like without doing the next step that I'm doing. Now that I copied that and I pasted it here into Tana, you'll notice that now what has been done is that there's section title assigned as a super tag for all of these. And inside of it is a correct part in the original sequence of text where everything goes where it should go. It's just that AI has been able to decide which parts are a thematic change, where the topic changes in some way, so that we can then define like some title for this particular section. And then this command right here, yeah, that's one of the cool things about Tana. And actually doing this part in Tana was a lot easier to do here versus in my mini app. So that's why I stuck to doing it here in Tana. So if we do section title, that's just gonna grab all of the information here and it's gonna assign it a title, just like that. So it's pretty cool because it's just the AI built in into Tana. It's using GPT, but it is a system built into Tana where with the command you can create all of these different headings for each section, which is pretty nice. And what I did before is that I just did it so that every time a new super tag has been added with section title, by default it already does it, so that when I paste it into Tana, it already assigns a particular heading. But what I like about having the button as well is just that if I am not happy with the version of the title that it gave me, I can delete it and it would recreate a new one. So that's quite cool.
What heat do you have for the AI?
Yeah, so let me actually show you. That's pretty interesting because that is based on something that you showed in one of the previous episodes. So here I just have one of the commands that I was using. This is the one that I'm using. The other one you can ignore. But this one is just the one that you recommended the other day. I think you called it, or we called it, URL enricher, something like that. It is a way in which you can add better titles for particular links. But if you do it like this, where it has an autofill fields and you just check it as a title, running this command by itself already generates a title for everything underneath it, which is super interesting, and it works better than any other system that I tried. The only problem with this is that you can't really specify instructions. As far as I could tell, there's no way to do like a prompt in here.
That's
Maybe
too
there's
bad.
a way. Yeah, I don't know what happens. Usually here you are recommended like, oh, what do you want to write? But in here it only gives me like these different options.
Yeah.
So I wonder if it's just not possible to modify. Because like one of the things that I really wanted to do is specify some parameters of make this a certain length, make it as short as this instead of this long. So things like that are just like little improvements that I would like to be able to specify the prompt of what I want. But right now we're just using that default one.
Like,
Yeah.
there's so many things that I discover after 3 months of assuming you can't do
Yeah.
it. I see someone in the Slack community was like, oh,
Yeah.
if you do these 16 convoluted steps, you can actually accomplish it. Okay, all right.
Yeah, so I'd be curious to see if there's already a correct way. I'd hope there is one, right? Yeah, that is my demo. Let me just wrap it up by saying that like this particular one I use a lot, and I like how it works with Tana. Just different cases where you might have something very long that you just want to split up in some way. You just paste it there and it's ready to go. So yeah, and now you can just copy. This one has a bit of a better experience than the other one. But yeah, at the moment it's pretty nice because then you can just copy it here and you can see it's all split into nice sentences. Yeah, I just was playing with a couple of random examples. Here's another one where, again, this was very similar to the other one, to be fair, but you just have a bunch of text. And this one in particular, let me just see. Yeah, okay, so what I wanted to do is just have a bunch of indentations. This was one of the things that it took me quite a while to figure out how to do best, but you can see that there's indentations like that. Yeah, so if I just paste that one there, it should preserve the indentations. So that's quite nice because if we just do example, yeah, you'll notice that if I put it like that, yeah, it just preserves the indentations, and whenever it makes sense, it just puts it underneath the correct one. So I think right now it's working well. That one took a while to just make sure that if it's going to split a long paragraph or a long chunk of text, it does it in the correct place where it's like sibling bullet point of the one that came before it. That helps a lot because as I'm writing long things, I particularly see a lot of use cases here for voice notes. Just having a long transcription and just being able to split everything into bits. But yeah, that's the idea.
So one thing that I'm curious about, what your thoughts are, is where I thought you were initially going with this.
Yep.
When you were transitioning from paragraphs to sentences. So where my mind initially went was, I don't remember when I learned this trick, but if it was grade school or grad school, but somewhere along the way, there was a teacher or professor who told me, okay, the trick to having a good flow in your essay or your paper or whatever, take each paragraph and boil it down to a sentence, and then read that series of sentences. And if that makes sense, you have a good story. And so I was wondering, I thought, oh, okay, so that's what he's doing. He's taking each paragraph and boiling it down to a sentence and seeing if that makes sense. It's not what you were doing. They're both useful, I think. But what do you think about that? Would that be a good flow?
Yeah, I actually like that a lot. I think it makes a lot of sense. And you actually shared in the previous episode a nice workflow where you created something all built into Tana that allows you to perhaps do a little bit more of that, just helping you see the big picture and leveraging AI in ways that can help you understand the structure of everything. One thing that I would be curious to explore though, because you did give me a nice idea with that. Let me just share my screen again. So again, like the space exploration, which was the best example so far, like this one has a bunch of sections one thing that we can do is, to be fair, the original purpose of really dividing things into sections, one is obviously so that it's more digestible for me to revisit things, but another really powerful one, and that leverages a lot of the power of Tana, is that I can rearrange things. Right now I'm doing shortcuts. I'll shift up arrow, I'll shift down arrow, or just dragging and dropping. That part I like a lot, because if I had like the original long form text, doing that is kind of annoying. It's okay, maybe I could rearrange this here, but I'm not sure if I'm breaking the flow of everything. Versus dividing it in sections, at least the way that I defined it is like each section should, for the most part, stand by itself in a way that I can rearrange it. And then once I have the structure that I do like, I can rewrite things so that they flow better. But you did give me the nice idea that it is, for the most part, I think these are paragraphs. Some are a bit longer in some cases. I did try to make each one not be shorter than 3 sentences, I believe. So I just want to make sure that nothing is cut out too much so that it's too short. I was still improving on that. As you can see, this one's a bit longer. But yeah, what you're describing is pretty nice, because then we could maybe have, let me just see what happens if I do this section title. So right now we're just doing a title. This would have to be improved, but something that I can already think of is we can add a description. And now whenever we press this button, I might just have to delete it. I'm not sure if it's essential to delete, but it will create a description underneath it to give me a bit more of a summary. So there it is, right? If this could be improved, especially if we have a command that is more custom made for exactly the type of prompt that we need, this particular description underneath it can already help us kind of have a bit of a summary, or just, I would really like to be able to customize the prompt to do what you did, which is, okay, if you had to boil down all of this to one sentence, what would it be? And would it capture the essence? And if not, I could rewrite it and delete it or so on. But yeah, I like the path that you were taking with that.
Okay, I'm just coming up with more silly ideas. What if each one had the summary auto-generated in the title, but then the description was a counterpoint? You know what I'm saying?
Oh, okay, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah, I think customizing like the instructions of what is in the description, what is in the title, I think would be the biggest advantage. Like I said, right now, the best way that I can think of is just adding fields. Maybe the fields approach is not that bad, and thankfully the mini apps that I created do accept fields, which is nice, because then you can reprocess it back if needed. But yeah, I do like the counterpoint idea. Yeah, for those that didn't watch the last episode, can you explain a little bit more about like your system, how you had it? Because that one was really powerful for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that one basically, it made 4 different calls to the AI. I really especially liked the first 2. And then the last couple were like extra fluff that I don't think added a whole lot, unless the first 2 were really tight. But the first 2 calls were basically summarizing and breaking into main points. And then the next call was like trying to tear apart each of those main points.
So you actually shared a little bit of this workflow in previous episodes. So for those that didn't see it, can you share your screen and walk us through a little bit of what you achieved, how it connects a little bit with what I did?
Yeah, here I just magically copied and pasted what you were using before, the original long form version, and I applied the record tag, which initiated this cascade of AI calls. And yeah, this just it separates the whole thing. And there were, I think it was 16 different paragraphs. It separated it into 11 main points. And in each main point, it gave some reasonings and a quote for why that was the main point. Then the next AI call tried to basically tear it apart and sometimes answer some of its own questions. And then another AI tries to resolve all of the conflicts and everything that happened above. And this all happens for each main point.
Nice. Perfect. So this one, for instance, has with descriptions, but what I like about you describe is that it is a lot more advanced in terms of like its reasoning power. Like you're using AI's power to really help us understand what are the core aspects of each paragraph. And I'd be really curious to explore that, because obviously right now this was a very basic level at which we have like just a title that is created as more of a summary. And the description is kind of like a longer summary. But what you did is a lot more powerful, because it can help you really reason why something is the main point. And I like how you're even tearing it apart and just taking it to another level. So I'd be curious to see how both of those could connect. And well, and just to tie it back, since we're making reference to the previous episode, like that system, for anyone curious of what Nick was describing in full, you can check out the last episode. But then the next step, so on one hand, I have just rewriting things and having new sections. Nick's sync, I think, can help you understand a little bit more about what is it that you're actually trying to say, and it can help you rewrite things in a much better way. And yeah, then what I do is I would, I don't know, rearrange things in whatever order they're best suited, and then I could add headings to each thing. Just in terms of adding headings, I have a system where I have heading 2, and I would put all these ones underneath that. Let's just select it like that and do it like this. It can give me a title, and I can organize everything in headings. Right now, to not like waste time and not to make it like super tedious to go through the process, I'll just take this example that I used last time, which is just, it was one of dinosaurs, right? It's just some random demo. But I do like how like the section title that I did in today's demo links with this, because then I can more easily organize things into like a structure that is more ready to be presented in a final blog post, in a final essay, right? So here I'm tagging things with H2, this heading 2, the main title is heading 1. I do have some drafts and stuff like that, but that is for another day. You can watch that in the previous video. And yeah, then what's cool is that I have these copy as Tana paste. And if I just paste it in this other mini app that I created, which last episode we called Tana Compose, I can process all of that text, and this just makes it more presentable, easier to navigate and see what is the final version of it all. And I can even process this in a way that it doesn't even show me the section titles. Maybe the section titles are for my own reference, but what I do want to see is the H2s and so on. Not the best example, because this one we changed topics, but the previous one had all the section titles and it had a discussion space, but I guess this kind of gives an idea, and then one can just copy all of this and paste it into a newsletter, a blog post, stuff like that. But that's like a little bit of my full workflow that I kind of use. So just to recap, like some of the tools that I'm using right now is, first, I write a draft. I actually like your process at the very beginning. So maybe I could have a voice note, and maybe that voice note can help me really understand what are the core concepts that are covered throughout, and that can help me inform how I can draft the second draft. And then from that second draft, I can divide it all into sections, right? And all of those sections can now be rearranged into headings, and then I can just put it all like I did. And within that process, I divide things into its own sentences so that everything is its own bullet point and so on. But yeah, that's kind of like everything that I've been working on that I discovered so far. And I do like how that part that you built also interlinks pretty nicely with helping you structure things better.
There's so much power in whether it's the AI, there's Python, and interestingly, like we showed, AI is for more like trying to hand something over to a person who is very ambitious and wants to prove themselves, versus Python is just like, I want you to do very precise things. But then there's also the power of Tana, which makes it super easy to collect information and data, and also tie information to what you're writing about. And this really leads us to where we were having that conversation with Roy. And it's really curious to see different people's strategies for writing and how the writing actually ties into everything else that they're doing. And another thing that I want to comment on is I'm shocked at how many people want to do long form writing in Tana or in combination with Tana. That was not like that level of connection of long form writing with Tana. I did not expect to be something that I would be running into here and there all the time.
Yeah, for sure. Because you were making reference to Roy, who's one of the members in our community. He was describing a little bit about how he uses this other app called Scrivener. So any writers, like especially fiction writers, I think is quite common. Non-fiction too, but it's a really powerful tool that allows you to just write a book in there, right? You can just organize a lot of things, and you can do this idea of rearranging things, drag and drop. The way that it actually looks, I think, is kind of an outdated app. It looks very old. It looks a bit clunky. The experience is a little bit cluttered as well. So I like how Tana just is a more minimally setup. And, as I've been writing more and more, I've been writing a lot of newsletters and blog posts recently. I have been really trying to push Tana to its limits in terms of what is possible to achieve with long form writing. And that's why I had to build like some extra tools for myself using code and using Python and so on. But yeah, like one of the reasons why I believe long form writing is so appealing in Tana, at least for me, is because Tana is an environment for thinking, right? It's a tool for thought. And as much as organizing, I don't know, meetings, which I believe is a very common like use case that people will have, like just organizing different notes for different people that they're meeting day to day, different clients, so on, maybe outlining certain, even content, things like that. I do believe that at the end of the day, everything just leads back to writing, whether it's writing emails, whether it's writing, I don't know, marketing campaigns, writing actual content. If you're creating a course like we are, right, like still writing it aloud, having a place to organize it all, I think Tana really shines at helping you organize your ideas. But at the time of whenever it's time to actually share that as a final blog post, as a final something that you want to send out, newsletter, blog post, essay, book, anything like that, Tana has had its limitations because not really designed for that. But I see so much potential for Tana to be able to achieve that. That is why I'm trying to hack it all to make it work for me. Yeah, I do remember that. I don't know how long ago, but you were writing a newsletter. So I wonder what your process was like back then.
I would outline things, and I
Right.
didn't have a set process. Sometimes it would be in Tana. Sometimes I was still using just like Apple Notes on my phone, depending on where
Right.
the thoughts, then the inspiration for having the article first sprung. But I would outline what I was going to write somewhere else and then copy those outlines into Substack and then just write around them.
Yeah, for sure. One of the challenges that I've had a lot in writing is like, how can I transform an outline of ideas into something more long form? And I think that's one of the powers of AI. It can
Mm.
really help you like not face this blank page scary thing, but rather if, like your system, that one that you were sharing, you can just feed it a bunch of maybe a voice note, right? And just have something to start with, have something that already gives you some structure. Maybe you could, I don't know, like I've been thinking a lot about what would it look like to just through the week just have a bunch of voice notes, maybe have a bunch of research from things that I feel are related, and how can I make the AI put it all together and at least give me a structure? That I would really like a lot. I'm
Mhm.
not a big fan of having AI writing the final thing. I think few people manage to achieve that in a way that still connects with the reader. But yeah, if AI can help me bring everything together and give some sort of structure that then I can do a second draft from, that is where I see a lot of power in AI for sure.
Yeah, yeah. I just remembered something while you were talking. I was playing around with ChatGPT because
Yeah.
apparently you can save memories in ChatGPT now.
I
So it
wait,
can remember
what?
things. Yeah.
So it does that within one chat, but is this a way in which you can do it across multiple chats?
Yeah.
I
And
haven't heard of this.
what it does is not what I thought it was, but it's
Okay.
something that, okay, there's something that I thought it was. It's not that
Right, right.
yet. I bet that's
Okay.
coming. But what it actually is a hack.
Okay.
If you are in a conversation or something and you say, okay, remember that, then it will add to this a long-term memory bucket. Like
Right.
you can just say, I'm in a chat with it and I just say, hey, remember my name is Nick. Okay, I'll remember that. And it updates this memory bank that you can access. You can remove things and
Nice.
stuff if you want. I actually did that. Oh, this is what I thought of, what made me think of it. So I was using ChatGPT actually in our course that I'm working on because I wanted to summarize, shorten the length of what I was writing for some of these things. And so I just copy pasted and say, hey, make this a little briefer, more concise, but still keep all the content. And it was doing
Right.
such a nice job. I was like, oh, this is great. What are you doing? Can you tell me what that is? Okay, you're doing all of these things. Okay, if you had a name for that, what would you call it? Okay, save that name and those set of instructions in memory, and it saved that. So
Nice.
anytime in the future, I can reference that, say, hey, use method X to summarize
Right.
this
Wow.
text. Yeah. Now,
That's cool.
what I was
Yeah.
hoping was that I would be able to use the AI in Tana, call the API, and say, hey, use method X on this.
Wow.
It doesn't have access to that memory, though, unfortunately.
That's a shame. Is that a limitation of OpenAI or of Tana or both?
I think, yeah, whatever is available in the AI, the API call that Tana has access to,
Yeah.
that is the limiting factor. I don't know if it's because
That makes sense.
Tana just isn't connected to the right API or if OpenAI just doesn't make that accessible via the API. I don't know, but that's where
Yeah.
it's breaking down.
Yeah, that makes sense. I guess the biggest reason is because OpenAI, they have ChatGPT and then they have the API of being
Mm.
able to use
I
GPT
guess
on
they're
different apps. They're
they're
kind of like,
distinct. That's
yeah, but
unfortunate.
it'd be so nice if they were joined for
This
sure.
was going to be
I know
my
what you mean.
my runaround to get the individual agent, a personalized agent, someone who knows me and knows what I like in things.
Yeah, that's very exciting. If Tana would allow for things like that in the future, that'd be incredible because
Yeah.
at the moment, as powerful as these AI tools are, they always have that big limitation, which is you need to instruct, I don't know, like just re-input the same things over and over again in order to have a similar result. That you need to save a lot of prompts and copy paste them a lot, but it'd be nice if you already knew, like in writing like the code for the mini apps that I was building, One of the things that I do all the time is give it the documentation because I don't know, like ChatGPT, or I've been using a lot of Claude as well. So Claude 3 is called, yeah. Yeah, that's the lead. Yeah, Claude 3. So I've been using a lot of Claude 3 as well. And for those ones, every now and again, it just kind of gives me outdated information. I don't know why. Sometimes it does know the real thing and proves to know the real thing, but sometimes it just forgets. It's like, nope, I'm only
Hmm.
trained until 2012. It's, what? What do you mean? You just gave me the updated stuff. So what I do is I just copy a lot of documentation over and over again. And I created some shortcuts to copy documentation as well with my Stream Deck, actually. So I have this documentation for Python, let's say, right? So it's like this, and it just copies it all into ChatGPT, for instance, which is hilarious. But I just wish it would remember things, because every single day I have to like copy things. And if I were to do things even more manually, going to the website, selecting the documentation, pasting, super annoying. So yeah,
Yeah.
memory would be incredible.
Yeah. Now, what I was hoping it was going to be was something that actually, like a year ago, I played around with someone who was building something. It was like ChatGPT, but it
Mhm.
had memory, and you could quiz it on
Oh yeah,
past conversations, and you didn't have to
right,
specifically say, "Hey, save this, remember that." If I just mentioned, "Hey, I'm eating spaghetti tonight," and if I'm talking with the AI tomorrow, it's like, "Hey, did
right.
you enjoy your spaghetti?" I don't know
Nice.
why OpenAI can't do that. Maybe they just don't want to yet. Maybe it doesn't fit into their product offering yet. Maybe they're just waiting for
Right,
GPT-5, because then it's really going to blow us away. And right now, it would just be a cool trick. I don't know, but I'm
right.
waiting for that.
Yeah, for sure. I actually do remember a year ago or so, there were a couple of tools that I tested that allowed for that persistent memory. Yeah, I
Mm.
can't remember I think I know the one that you were referring to. It's something like Hey something. I don't know. But either way, that one was interesting because it did allow, it was just a chat interface, right? Nothing else,
Yeah.
just ChatGPT, but you can ask it things on the past and it would just remember absolutely everything you feed it, right? Yeah, I've tested a lot of this other tool in the past called Mem that I mentioned a
Hmm.
couple of times. It's kind of a note taking app with a chat interface that you can just ask it everything about your notes. And that is an interesting way. That one did have a lot of limitations. It wasn't as good as ChatGPT and it wasn't as good as a note taking app. It was just like somewhere in between both. But it'd be really interesting if there's like a tool that can really bring the best of both worlds, which I mean, hopefully Tana can allow that in the future, just have the best possible experience of note taking plus AI in one place. So that'd be really nice. I really wonder why ChatGPT hasn't done it from the chat, from the AI side of things.
Hmm.
Were these updates that you were referring to like quite recent? Because I haven't heard about this yet, but I'm definitely gonna play with it.
I think they've been rolling it out slowly to users over the last couple months, actually. I
Oh,
just
really?
noticed it last week. Yeah.
Huh, weird. I wonder if I have it or not. Yeah, what are you thinking about is going to be the best AI tool? Because right now, obviously, ChatGPT is the biggest one, like everyone knows about it. But I've
Mm-hmm.
been testing quite a lot Claude, like I was talking about Claude, and I also been testing Gemini. Gemini. I have the trial of Gemini, which is pretty generous. It has like 2 months of Pro Gemini. I paid for 1 month of Claude, and yeah, I tried to cancel my ChatGPT to test Claude fully, but I was like, no, I need to get back to ChatGPT. It's just so good, in my opinion. One of the things that I found very limiting about Claude was that the amount of messages that you have per, I can't remember exactly, but like every 5 hours it has a limit. I hit that
Mm-hmm.
limit constantly,
Mm.
and then I'm back to being a caveman. I can't do anything for 5 hours. So I just had to get back to ChatGPT, which has a bigger limit. But
Mm.
yeah, what are you thinking about the future of these AI tools?
I think I will answer in two parts. One part, I will say that OpenAI and Midjourney are two examples of
Yeah,
things that I'm going to continue subscribing to them, because even though other companies or other technologies leapfrog them for a while occasionally,
right.
they've demonstrated a good history of always, oh, okay, you're doing this in March, Google, guess what's coming in April or May?
Yeah.
And
Huh.
yeah, they have a tendency to at least catch up or often get back ahead of the competition. So I'm not going to be quick to drop those subscriptions. Now, the
Yeah.
part two of my answer is I believe that eventually AI will become a commodity. And when you transition from like specialized products to commodities, you're going from something that can be a luxury good to something that's just, you can buy gas from any gas station. So what does it
Right.
matter? Some of them might have slightly higher quality or a little lower price, but they're all going to be about the same at the end of the day, except for the absolute tippy top best, and also some places that are just dregs of society. But otherwise, they're all about the same.
Yeah, yeah, that's for sure. I guess there's always going to be a monopoly where there's going to be the top companies that own the best ones, but yeah, they're all like competing to try to be the best one. But yeah, it's just going to make them relatively similar to each other. I wanted to explore a little bit of the open source one. There's one called Mistral. There's
Mm.
Llama 2, I believe, from Facebook. And
Llama
those are
3 now, I
interesting.
think. Isn't that what
Oh,
they're
yeah,
on?
you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. That one just came out. I haven't tried that one yet. Those are interesting because technically you can just run them from your computer and
Mm.
technically not have to pay, but they're so research intensive that I think most people won't do it. And I think I was trying to download one. It was like 40 gigabytes and it's, oh shit, maybe some of the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, at the end of the day, the big ones that are really making it accessible are just gonna be obviously the most mainstream. And ChatGPT, I just think it's gonna stay the champion for a while. I'm curious to see. I actually don't know anything about Apple. Like, do they have some AI coming? Do you
They
have any clue?
must.
It
That
must.
is the topic on Twitter. Every month or
Yeah.
two, like someone will say, Apple's being really quiet on AI. They
Yeah.
must have some really amazing stuff coming out in the future. And
Right.
they still haven't come out with it. But
Yeah.
I assume this is the company that made Siri, like, what, a
Yeah.
decade ago? I don't know. For a
Right.
long time. So they must have people who know how to do this stuff. And actually, yeah, just like people are like implying, the fact that they're quiet on this tells me
Mhm.
that they have something, but
Yeah.
we'll only find out.
They must. It's crazy. Like Google, for instance, it has its own Siri. Like this is a Google Pixel phone and has its own like Siri equivalent, which now is Gemini, which is pretty cool because now they're using their AI to be the Siri that you can talk to. And I've always hated Siri and any those things. Like the one in Google used to be called Bixby. Terrible, like terrible experiences. I never liked any of those. But now that it's AI, and particularly with Gemini Advanced, yeah, it's decent. This is pretty nice. And even like at the beginning of this episode, I kind of showed a demo. And the reason why I use the Gemini generated text is because it seems like it's good at writing. I wanted to test that. Obviously, I made it right. Like that spacing that I was showing, I did it in ChatGPT, in Claude, Gemini. I just chose Gemini because it kind of gave me the longer one, which is what I needed. But yeah, it's definitely interesting. And I'm definitely curious why Apple hasn't talked about it. Yeah, what's going on? There's no chance they're gonna miss on this pie, right? Yeah, they're gonna
Yeah.
have something good.
There could be a few reasons why they're waiting. One that I've heard is because since they're Apple, they don't want to just do what everyone else is doing. They want to,
Right.
wow, but they want to have an iPhone moment with their AI, which
Yeah.
makes perfect sense with their history. It could also be because they want to know that they can lock down their AI, that it's super proprietary and no one can jailbreak it, no one can copy it in any way. No one can trick it to reveal
Yeah.
behind the scenes what's going on, anything like that.
Right.
So there could be lots of layers of testing that they're doing for things like that. It could be both of those things. It could be also maybe like Tim Cook just doesn't want to drop the ball like Google did with Gemini. So he's just being super careful with how he rolls it out. I don't know what's going on, but yeah, anything's possible.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. I'm definitely excited to see what happens. And the more I get deeper into this idea of coding, that is one of the things that I'm the most interested with AI. And just like these past weeks from being able to compare the different models, I'm very curious to see if there's anything that's going to be better at coding as a large language model. Like ChatGPT, what I determined, I really thought for a second that Claude was better at coding. Right. And what happens is that it's kind of selectively good. Like for some reason, in some things is good, better than ChatGPT. In some others, just very stupid. It's like, dude, come on, you're supposed to be good. And it's just so frustrating, right? I realize that sometimes I just give a problem, write this code to ChatGPT, and it just can't do it. No matter how much I ask, how much documentation I give it to Claude and it solves it immediately. But it happens the other way around as well. Yeah, I'm curious how that keeps evolving. And we talked a little bit about Devin, like an automated way to write code with AI. We talked about Replit, which I'm very curious to explore for sure. Just like for anyone not familiar, you were talking about Replit as a way to write code with a thing called Ghostwriter, right? That is AI. Does that use OpenAI's API? Do you know?
No,
Or
no,
is it
that's
different?
their own proprietary AI. Yeah.
Nice. You sent me a video on it. Can you explain a little bit about that? That was pretty interesting.
That video, that was just the CEO, Amjad Masad, I think. I forget, what was he saying? I don't know. I just remember I was like, oh, yeah, Santi would like this.
Just pushing the boundaries of they're trying to really make it replace the boring aspects of programming
Oh,
while
yeah.
keeping programmers like in the driver's seat, that kind of stuff. So it's interesting. Because I've been so interested in code recently, I've seen a lot of debate of like whether you should learn things in a no code tool versus just learning the code itself. Right now, what I'm doing is just a weird mixture of I have AI writing code itself, and then I do the very manual way that programmers do it, running the code in my computer without any fancy tech. I don't know. It's a weird balance that I've found. I definitely want to learn more of real code, but I'm definitely tempted by things like Replit. The only concern that I have about things like Replit is that it seems that if you start developing things inside of there, then you're subject to whatever changes they make will affect your code. But I don't know
Hmm.
enough about that, to be honest. So I would like to explore Replit, but I really don't know what the best path is. I would really, for instance, even these tools that I created to show you, they work on my computer. Technically, I could share with someone who knows how to run code, but I would really like to just put them on a website, maybe create a login, ready to go. And for that, sounds like Replit is the right path. Yeah.
Yeah, Replit, I think, would be the easiest, most convenient for doing quick deployments like that.
Because it allows to give like all of your code by itself. It doesn't have their own way of doing things that you need to do
Hmm.
it in their own language or their own system. I think you just give it code and it deploys it. Is that right?
I don't know what you're asking.
Yeah, that's okay. Might be
How is that
true.
different from normal? I think normally you write your code in an IDE and then you use something else to deploy it technically, don't you? Or how does it work?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So use VS Code, for instance, which is what I use.
Mm.
Write all of your code, have all of your project, you run tests locally, but then you need to have some platform that can put it out into the world, create
Okay.
a
Yeah.
website, create a login. Yeah.
Yep.
I think Replit does a lot for
With
that, right?
Replit, yeah, you can use your IDE to also deploy, basically. Yeah.
Nice, nice. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Sounds cool.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm curious to see, again, if anyone's interested in what we're building with these mini tools, extensions of Tana, little plugins, we can call them. Let us know. I'd be really curious to see if we can make these available for you because, especially some of the tools that are shared today, are a little bit simpler to share, like compared to the one that I did in last episode. That one has a bit more moving pieces. But yeah, some of the things that I have, especially the one that helps you split a block of text into bullet points, that is something that I could deploy and make
Hmm.
it available. So let us know if you're interested in that. Cool, Nick. Any final thoughts, or otherwise we can just start wrapping it up?
No, I don't think so. I got nothing.
Okay, no worries, man. Yeah, so join our free community. First link in the description. You can talk to us there. If you have any questions, if you like to for us to dig deeper into any of the topics that we got into this episode and previous episodes, hit us up there. Happy to help you in any way we can. And yeah, with that said, hope you enjoyed this episode, and we'll talk soon. Bye bye.